Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, sorry for the slight lack of builds lately. I feel it's weird trying to find cool places to build sometimes in Fallout. You know, sometimes you'll find loads of places in quick succession, and sometimes you'll go for a while without finding anything at all. But there we go. However, found somewhere quite cool today. So, you see a couple of holes in the road behind me. There's a little space under there that is quite an interesting location for a hidden little camp hideout sort of thing. So, we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Let's see where we are now. My camp, we're just across the road from the Valley Galleria. That's right over in the southern part of the mire there, just up from the Cranberry Bog. So, I literally found this place by walking down the road and falling through the hole. It was more than a little bit absurd. It does come with a few shortcomings. Primarily, it's not as well hidden as I'd like. I've got a couple of ideas for something that are very cool on that front, but it's pretty cool. But one of the drawbacks to it is because it's so close to a marked location, namely the Valley Galleria over there. You see the hole we're going to be working in just a moment. We have a few issues with how close we can actually get to that location. So we'll take a look over the top in a moment. As you see, there's not a lot of room down here. Cool though. This ladder is actually already in place as well, which is handy, because it's rather difficult to get out without it. So this is where my actual camp unit was placed down. That is as close as I can get to those holes in that little cavern we're going to build in. Which is not really all that close, because as you'll see now, the build area limit actually goes right through the middle of the cave, which did create a few technical issues. It might be possible to place it somewhere a little further to the north of the location maybe, and put it at the bottom end of the build area that way, and have a little more room, but as it was, this was the best I came up with. So it's actually very, very simple, because obviously we've got most of the environment in place with the cave. The first thing we're going to do is see what we can do about getting a floor down. Unfortunately, the skeleton and a few bits and pieces with it there are not scrappable and will not be bulldozed either, so I don't think Bethesda expected us to be working down here. So what I'm going for here is to put these bottom floor pieces in, these foundations, as low as I possibly can, because you're going to need the headroom. There's not a lot of space in here. It's also a bit finicky about exactly where they'll go in, because how much of it sinks into the ground. But there we go. So this is going to be over 2 levels, just because of the curvature at the edge of this hole. So here, obviously I can't snap this particular foundation piece in, so we're going to line it up with the edge of the ones we've got existing already. Which takes a little bit of eyeballing, but we'll get there. Adjust, check, adjust again. Interesting, they'll quite happily overlap, which is odd. These concrete foundations seem to be a lot more forgiving than the wooden ones. So we've got that lined up, and I'm moving it as close to the skeleton and the ammo box and so on and so forth in that corner as I possibly can. That way we can make the best use of the space. Let's see what the little first aid kit there is about going to be the limit of how far over we can pull this. Get that lined up again. Nudge it a little further back this way. There we go. Actually more forgiving than I thought it would be. That should about do it. So once again, we're going to need that headroom. So the idea is going to be to sink it down as low as I possibly can. Here I tried a lot of different combinations of bits and pieces to see what I could fit in and what I could do for an entranceway and stuff like that. But simple is the answer to what works here. So with that floor piece in, as you see I can't snap one onto the top of it there, but we're okay on this side. However, once again, we hit our limits. So I had tried to put a staircase in through the other hole, but unfortunately with the positioning of the ground and the ceiling and the foundations as well, it was just not going to happen. So I'm going to have to use the environment as is to create a kind of way in and out. Unfortunately, actually seeing what you're doing with this particular foundation piece is a bit of a nightmare. But we'll get it pretty close. There's a bit of an overlap there, which is not ideal, but that's as far over as it will go. So we'll have to make do with what we've got. So, for some strange reason, as per, these wooden stairs do not want to snap in. They're not particularly cooperative. Same seems to be true no matter where you build them. It's a coin flip on whether or not it'll work. These concrete ones, much more agreeable. So, we have a staircase. I'm just going to fence this up a level off, give it a little bit of more of an enclosed feeling, more of a built-up feeling. I'll actually be swapping these railings out for half-size shack walls, the wooden ones, a little later on. Although I think I did that off camera, to be fair, so just something to bear in mind. These ones obviously going to have to stay the same. Just gives it a bit more of a cosy feel that way. There we go, looking good. That, to be honest, is the overwhelming majority of the build, which is kind of ridiculous, I know. There's an awful lot of decoration and stuff that takes quite a lot of time. You see here I had a bit of problem getting this chemistry station to go in. Place it down and it just jumps upwards or vanishes into thin air. There we go. Oof, it's gone. So the solution to this is we'll pull it out of the ground and rug glitch it, which I'm not 100% sure, but I think this might be the first occasion I've actually used the rug glitch properly in Fallout 76. Monumental day if it is. Either way, it does still work, kinda. The operation of it is exactly the same as it was in Fallout 4, but it no longer allows you to bypass collision and push one object inside another. In this case, it is quite handy for getting things to go into place where they won't otherwise do so, though. So it's more like using group select in a way, but obviously we don't have that option. So you can see you still do it with the big rugs as well. Like you see, you can't really see it very clearly here, but the reason I can't get the bed in there is because the collision's kicking in. You can sort of see there now that the bed's sticking off the rug way more than I thought it was. It was causing the problem. But we'll shuffle it in. As it turns out, I didn't actually need to rug glitch this at all, but it's handy for pointing out what I was talking about, so we'll get this Tinker's Workbench out of the way. I spent an awful lot of time putting things in, pulling them back out and rearranging. The decoration phase of this was crazy long considering how small it is, just to make sure that everything will fit, and also to make sure that you can really move around in here. I'm quite happy with the fact I managed to get all the essentials in. I could have done with maybe a water purifier or something like that, but the important stuff's there. So there's one last thing I want to look at, and this is kind of not very good, to be honest. This hole, as it currently is, if you happen to drop down it, you'll wind up in a little corner of the cave down there that you won't be able to get out unless you're lucky enough to have either a jetpack on or a marsupial mutation. And even then you might be pushing it. So I had wanted to close it up using either floor pieces or foundation pieces, but obviously without a staircase I can't put floor pieces in, so it doesn't work. And the foundation pieces stick down so far that they just get in the way on the inside. So my horrible solution here was to put some rugs down, pile them one on top of the other, and plug the gap that way. It sort of works with a hidden feeling because they're not immediately noticeable unless you're looking right at them. But at the same time, it's the most slapdash job ever. So honestly, if you're not bothered about hiding the hole, I would probably say if you want to build here, just stick a fence around it. It's a lot easier. And it'll probably look better as well. But basically what I did here was built off the initial rug to cover as much of the hole as possible, then moved over to these little rugs that sort of blend in with everything else. The reason you can see the texture of the ground on the top of the rugs there is just because of the way the textures actually work. Rather than being a solid part of the ground or an actual object, it's more like cast light. So it functions as if it's a projected image rather than a solid object, while it's appearing on top of the rugs as a placement. Little interesting factoid of the day for you. Yeah, so I've left this in basically because it's going to be the elephant in the room no matter what I do. It works as far as nobody's falling through the hole, but it's an ugly hack, to say the least. On the other hand, the rest of the build, pretty pleased with, so we'll stop faffing and have a look around the finished job. So I've put a couple of stalks of corn in there just to kind of help conceal the thing a little bit. I'm not sure I really succeeded with that, but it's also handy to have a bit of food around. The growing space is very limited unless you want to tuck it sort of out of sight up the hill a little bit there, which could work. Unfortunately, the Scorched have a habit of running over from the Valley Galleria and just bashing up my corn plant that I've got set up there, so they're quite inconvenient like that. As you can see now, when we get a really good look at it, it's pretty obvious exactly what's happened, but at a glance, particularly with a very yellow light in the mire, particularly as well when you come down from the north though, you really don't notice it unless you're looking. In fact, you didn't notice the hole at all, because as I say, that's how I found this place. I literally fell into it. But we'll have a look down the actual entrance. We move through reasonably well. It's a little bit awkward with the way the sort of reinforced concrete sticks out there in the headroom. You have to kind of jiggle your way in it. But it does work. This is a little sleeping area. We've got the Tinker's Bench there. We're using the stash box as a bedside cabinet. A chair. Like very, very simple, very, very basic and cosy, but it's different. And, you know, I've seen a few people doing cave-type builds recently. I thought it'd be fun to have a crack at my own. And, yeah, it's just a slightly different take, so I'm happy with that. There's not much room for power down here, and it wouldn't be very well concealed if I had a generator whirring away, so we're on lanterns for the lighting, but it kind of gives a nice little atmosphere to it. Managed to cram all the workbenches in here, and as you can see, I've just about managed to squeeze a power armor station in there as well. The taller one, the other style of station, just wouldn't fit, but that one went in okay. It needed a little bit of persuasion, but we got there. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed that. It's a simple little build and a bit of fun, something a bit different. If you did like the video, I'm sure you know what to do by now. As always, social media links should be popping up somewhere around about now as well, so if you'd like to keep up to date with everything going on, do hit one of those up. And if you haven't already, do stop by on one of the streams. I've been streaming pretty regularly lately, playing Fallout and a little bit of Resident Evil on the side as well, which have both been good fun. So do stop by and check them out. For now, thank you very much for watching, and I will be speaking to you all very, very soon.